Okay, I
Hello
came
and
to China
welcome
by
to the Silk
accident
and Steel
20 years ago,
podcast.
21
I'm your
years ago
host,
now,
Carl Za.
2004.
Today we have a
So I'm in
very
my
special
22nd year
guest,
of
Jerry.
being in China. I
I
came
have
here
known
on an
Jerry
8-month
for a long
contract to
time, who
be a
has
very,
been a
very simple job,
long-term
English teaching.
China
And my
resident.
plan was to
But for
take this
some of my
portable skill that I
new
had. I'd been made
audience who
redundant
might
in
not know
Australia. I
you,
had a
Jerry,
portable skill.
could
I
you
was a
just do a
qualified
brief
teacher, and I
intro
thought,
on
I'll
who
go
you
around the
are
world and
and
I'll see
how
a bit
did
of
you
the
end up
world
in
because I'm
China?
only 45 years old. I'm now 67 years old and still living in China. About 2014, 16 years, 15 years ago, no, not quite that long, 10 years, 12 years ago, I decided to take a bike ride across China, and that kind of got me some attention. And I became known as the bike riding guy in China. I'm not the only one, I'm certainly not unique, but there's not many foreigners who've been as much as me on bikes. I believe there are a couple. There's a Dutch guy doing it right now, coming back from Beijing, but he's taking a roundabout route and coming back from Beijing to Guangdong. And so what I did, I rode from the border of Macau, which is in the southeast of China, for anyone who doesn't know the geography, all the way to the border of Kazakhstan, which is in the far northwest. It's a 4,900, basically 5,000 kilometer trek across
For the
China.
people who
So that
don't
was the
know
first one.
China's geography, Macau is right next to Hong Kong, and from there to border of Kazakhstan, you pretty much traverse half of China. That's very impressive. How did you start on bicycling? Have you always been doing bikings or
No, no. When I was in my 50s, I just wanted to lose a little weight. I think I was 53, and I saw myself getting out of the shower in a mirror, full length mirror, and I didn't like what I saw. So I was conscious of the fact that both my mother and her father had a very similar body shape to mine. Although I haven't seen my mother's, just we're both kind of short and round, and both of them had heart conditions in their 50s. Both of them lived quite a while, but they did both have heart attacks in their 50s. And I thought, I don't want that to happen to me. So I've reached 67 now, and I've got no heart problems whatsoever. So getting on a bike and doing what I did was very good for the aerobic exercise. It's built the heart and lungs up, and I'm relatively fit. Don't test me on stairs. I hate stairs, but put me on a bike and I'll do 100 kilometers tomorrow, and I wouldn't have much problem with that. Recovery would be a couple of hours, and then I'd be going having a beer. So yeah, I can get around a little bit on a bike, but I never did that before. I mean, I had bikes when I was a kid, of course, and as an adult, I used to have one period of my life I had a bike to ride to work, trying to be a bit environmentally friendly, stuff like that. But no, I've never been a serious cyclist. I'm not into competitions. I'm not into organized cycling. I just first trip was me and a friend. Second trip was me and another friend. Third trip was me and my wife. The fourth trip was me and my wife and the other friend, the same friend who did the couple of trips with me now. And then just a few months ago, we started here in Zhongshan in the south of China, also near Macau, and cycled up to Inner Mongolia to Hobart. That was May and June of this year. We took about 6 weeks to do that.
Okay, so I mean, for most people who just decide to do bicycling for exercise, obviously they normally don't go halfway across a gigantic country. How did that come about? The first long distance biking trip from Macau to border of Kazakhstan.
Well, the original idea, the original plan was to go to Tibet. I wanted to ride to Lhasa because that's supposed to be the biggest challenge. It's possibly the biggest cycling challenge in the world is to ride to Tibet or ride through Tibet and into Lhasa and then onto the Himalayas. But I never got the opportunity to do that. The government here will not allow foreigners to cycle that into Tibet. And it's not related to security. They allow us to go there, but they're just not on bikes and not on the road. So we have to go in groups. We have to go on a plane or a train, not even by a bus, not a private car, and not a bicycle. So basically, well, if I can't go there, where else can I go that's a long way? I wanted to do a bit of a challenge, and that was how this came about. I ended up going to Xinjiang. I'd been to Xinjiang before a couple of times, but never by bike, of course. And then everybody telling me online, no, you can't go to Xinjiang, you can't go. But I mean, I wasn't online before I did this. And when I was online posting about it when I came back, everyone's telling me, no, you can't do that. Well, I just did. Here's the pictures, type of thing. So yeah, I just cycled into Xinjiang, which is supposedly this kind of enclosed area that the BBC always tells us is very difficult to get into. It's not at all. Just right in there or walk in there. That's another thing. Of course, my wife is quite famous because she walked from here to Beijing, as well as ridden
Wow.
from Xinjiang back to here with me. So yeah, she's even more famous than me in China.
Wow, you are all very healthy healthy people.
We're not when we're finished. I promise you. We're broken wrecks.
So actually, I think I first learned about you was when you posted picture of your biking trip in Xinjiang.
Yeah,
I don't know how long ago was that.
it's about 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's around 2019 or
It was slightly pre-COVID, but
yes.
not much pre-COVID. It was 6 months or so before COVID.
Yeah, and I thought, wow, this guy is hardcore, and I mean, 'cause you are, I was living vicariously through you because you back then you were doing what I always wanted to do, which is
Right.
bicycling around China. Uh, and at that time I haven't been to Xinjiang yet. I just been to Xinjiang.
Yeah, I saw you were there. Yeah. So
I just came back from my own Xinjiang trip. I rode in a Land Cruiser. You know, we rode about 300 3,500 kilometers all over Xinjiang. And when I went around, especially the Taklamakan Desert, I gained a special appreciation for what you did because you were cycling through some of the most harsh terrains. I mean, like the road might be flat, but it's like it's hot, it's dry and hot. What month did you go?
we were there about the same. The last trip, my wife, an Australian friend of mine, and myself, three of us, were there about the same time as you. We left late September on the last trip. We had 45 degrees centigrade temperatures in the desert. And you've probably experienced the wind there now. It's pretty hot. It's like being in a huge hair dryer. You know, ladies have their hair dryer, and the whole wind is it's just really hot. So we were there. The first time we were there, it was quite cold. It was in April, and we left Harmi, came out of Harmi, and it's a really big hill climb to get out of Harmi. And we got the higher we got, the colder it got, of course. And then it started sleeting, then it started snowing. I mean, this is late April. We were thinking we wouldn't experience weather like that. Then we got past Urumqi and we went to the Tian Shan Mountains, where on the day we went there, we used a car because we had a blizzard. We literally had like 3 foot of snow across the road. There's no cycling in those conditions, so we got a car to take us across the mountains. And then when we came down the other side into Ely, it was beautiful and warm and great blue skies and pasture lands. It's fantastic. You've probably been there too. But yeah, we did pretty much every single different terrain you can think of. Xinjiang is extremely diverse. It's got the deserts, it's got a rock desert, it's got sand deserts, it's got mountains, it's got grasslands, it's got uh, most gorgeous fields with the uh, lavender and the sunflowers, depending on the time of year you go there. But both of our journeys have been at kind of bookends of the year. The second one was pretty cold coming out, but we wanted it. Sorry, pretty hot coming up. We wanted it to be that time of year because we didn't want to go through the summer heat, the July and August. So we came a bit later. It was a little hotter than we expected. That's all. 45.
So you actually went to Xinjiang multiple times, not just once.
I've been to Xinjiang. I've been twice this year, and I'm going again next week.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, I've been many times. I went there with CGTN early this
Hmm.
year to do a panel with. You met Luke, I think, when you were in
Yes,
Urumqi. I
yes.
met him there. We did the same panel in with Liu Xin of CGTN, and a couple of other very important people, far more important than me. But that's another story. We'll stay off the geopolitics, but that was more about geopolitics. I
Ah,
am a friendship ambassador, the Silk Road Friendship Ambassador. I have a kind of a trophy and a certificate to say that. So I'm inclined to go there when I have free time, and I also write a bit about it. So I'm quite
Mhm.
favorable in my writing about it. Obviously, I don't follow the Western media narratives, and I'm completely contrarian to them, as I've seen you are now. And once you spend a little time there, you realize that this is definitely not right. The the narrative. So yeah, that's why I go there. I've made a few videos up there with TV crews. Basically, they invite us up and say, "Oh, look, you cycle around here. Would you mind coming and cycling here? You know, we'll get you bikes. You just bring your gear, and we'll put you on these bikes, and we'll film you in this area or in this area." Yeah, okay, we can do that. I don't mind. Free holiday.
Nice. So
Yeah.
I actually, I actually have not been to Yili. So my
All
our
right.
trip this time we were driving around southern Xinjiang. We did go to Urumqi. We went through the Tianshan Mountain to Urumqi, but then from Urumqi we flew to Kucha, and then from Kucha we drove right across the Taklamakan Desert to
Mm.
Kashgar, to Yarkand and
That's a
Kashgar.
hell of
So
a drive.
it's 3,500 kilometers. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I have developed iron butts by just sitting in the car hours. Like traveling in Xinjiang made me, because Xinjiang is such a big place. A lot of people don't realize how big Xinjiang is. A lot, like our driver told us, this is what sightseeing in Xinjiang is like. You drive like 5 hours, and then you
Yeah,
get to a destination. You spend like maybe a couple hours, and then you get it back in the car, and you drive another few hours to a hotel.
it's
So
true.
that was my experience. I would have rather done what you did, which is actually open air and a good exercise. Um,
Well, it's certainly that, but you say you developed an iron butt on the back seat of a Prado or whatever it was that you were in, a Prado, your four-wheel drive, your SUV. I was on a bike seat, and every hour you do in the car is a day for us, effectively. We're riding about 100 kilometers in a day. You're driving 100 kilometers in an hour, give or take a little bit. Most of our days are usually 100 to between 80 and 120. And then in that area, there is nowhere to camp. There is nowhere to get any shade. There is nothing. You've seen it. There's no trees. There's nothing. What they do have is these under the road flood culverts. So we kind of get off the road and go underneath. And there's little kind of bridges on the road. And that's where we spend our nights in the desert. There's one night we were at a service station which had you can't really call it a restaurant. It's a place you could get food, but they let us sleep in their storeroom one night. So we slept there. And where's the toilet? Out the back. There is no toilet. It's literally go out back. That was it. So there wasn't a toilet out the back. There's just a massive, great big desert out there for 1,000 kilometers or more. So there's your toilet. Just find a little sand dune and go there.
wow. I yeah, that brings back some memories. So you were able to camp. You actually brought a little tent with you on the
Yeah.
biking trip, and there's no problem. You can just camp anywhere.
No, no, I've got a little story about this. That there was never a problem camping. You know that you go through quite a bit of security when you're in Xinjiang. When you go into a new town, everybody gets security checked. So we had to do that. But some of these towns are 300 kilometers apart, and we're only riding 100 kilometers a day. So what do? You camp. There's no options there. And I was told, I mean, I don't know if any of your viewers would know what ASPI is and who Nathan Russer is of ASPI, but he contacted me and said, "This can't be true because if this is true, you camped next to the largest prison camp in China." Really, did I? Because it's absolutely true. We were in a place called Dabachian, which is not that far from Turfan, and we were camping in this place. I had no idea. We actually camped in the back of a graveyard because it was quiet, not realizing that there's a train line right there, and every hour a train comes past.
Oh,
It's the old train, the slow train, not the high speed train, which goes and then it's gone. And so there was that story. And the other story we had was my wife and I, when we were in Xinjiang, we flew to Xinjiang a few days early, had our bikes shipped up there, and the plan was to ride home. So we can't carry gas, camping gas, on
Mm,
the plane or the train. They
right.
won't let you. So we said, we'll get it when we're there. No one would sell us this. They had it
Mm,
in the camping shops. They had it, but they wouldn't
hmm.
sell it to us. Why not? We just don't know who you are or anything like this, and we
Uh,
get into trouble with the police if we sell it to you. And eventually we found one guy who agreed to sell it to us, but he hid it inside a shoebox. So we had a camping gas bottle inside of a shoebox, and he said, "Don't go on public transport back to your hotel because you go through metal detectors." And then when we got back to the hotel, I've got this shoebox under my arm and realized the hotel door has a metal detector. I'm like, what do I do here? What do I do here? So I just walked straight through Boulder's Brass with this thing under my arm. It went beep, 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 and nobody cared.
Yeah, that's a thing I did notice. Staying in hotel in Xinjiang, there's metal detector at every entrance. But if
Yeah,
you just go through it, like when you set off the metal detector, nobody cares
who
because
cares? It's very complacent. It's the only city I've ever been to where we get off a plane and go through security.
yeah. Yeah, and I don't. You actually went to Xinjiang pretty early. I don't know what your experience was like because when we went this year, there was still a lot of security, police checkpoint, but we were told just to roll down our window to look into the camera, so to let the AI
Right.
recognition take our pictures, and then we drive through. But our driver says a few years earlier, before they had the AI recognition, everybody have to get off the car and they will check your document. It was a big
Yeah.
pain in the ass. Like when you were first cycling through Xinjiang, did you have to stop and then they check your passport and stuff like that?
I've been through all different ranges from zero security to that security and back to a lower level of security. So the first time I went to Xinjiang was 2005, and I went with my
Mm,
father, my wife and her father, and a couple of other family members and some friends. There was quite a group of us, about 8 or 10 of us went in this group together, and my father and I kind of peeled off and we did our own thing while they did their thing because my father was quite old and he didn't want to go off on these 5 hour drives. So effectively, he and I stayed around the city center and we got to find our way around Urumqi, which was quite underdeveloped at that time, much less developed than it is today. And there was very little in the way of security. I would say virtually no security at all. Nothing. We were able to go into the bazaars, into the mosques, everywhere we went. There was never any trouble. Then I went back again. The next time I was back, there was on the bike, and the security was there, but it was much less. We had a couple of towns we went through. One was called Shanshan, and it was very heavy security. And we found out later that just 1 year, actually only 11 months before, it was in June the previous year, 2013, in June, they'd had a huge riot and 30 people had died, including 16 police officers. So they were very conscious of it. And that was a place we had trouble. It's the first time in my experience of traveling in China where I had trouble finding a hotel. So what we did was we went into the police station and said, "Where's a hotel?" They were really nice, very polite. They went out in their van. Four of them went out in their van. One of them gave us tea while we were sitting there waiting. He said, "We'll be back in a minute." Off we went, and then they came back and said, "Yeah, the only hotel you can stay at is this one." And we went across there, and that was it. We were fine. There's no issues. But we'd stopped at 4 or 5 hotels, and they'd all said, "No, no, no, we're not taking anybody here." There was obviously an air of some suspicion or whatever, but there was never any issues. There was not a single time where anyone said to us, "Where were you yesterday? What were you doing? Can I see your camera?" Anything like that. So effectively, we were free travelers. But that was on that first trip. That was 2014. That was the only issue that we had that one day. 2019, we were going through regular security checks, slightly different, higher level of security, but the higher level security was much better organized. So on our bikes, because we're foreigners, we had to get off the bikes, show them our passports, get manually recorded through. And they were like, "What are you doing? What's going on here?" Well, we're riding here. We're doing this for charity. We're raising money for disabled people in Dongsan. Can we have some photos with you? So we got photos with the security and the police. And they're bringing us fruit, and here's 4 bottles of water because it's dry out there. So, oh yeah, thank you very much. We just find somewhere to put them into our baggage, and they were really really nice. There was never, we met one police officer who was officious, and he was quite rude to us, but then he's probably rude to everyone. I wouldn't say there was any issue at all with the police except that one guy. Now, just so your audience is aware, I spent 10 years as a police officer, and I've met many, many more officious bastards in the police service than he was. So it wasn't that big a deal for me. It was just, oh, he's so we had our name from him. We left that and that situation. Yeah, we weren't allowed to stay in that hotel. This was in 2019, but we were allowed to stay down the road, so we did. But he was really rude about it. And then he followed us out of town, and he made sure that he would that behind us. We're doing 20 kilometers an hour, and there's a police car with lights behind us. So he just made sure we went to the next town, which was only 20 or 30 kilometers away. Wasn't a big deal. Once we were off his turf, he was happy. We were happy. We didn't want to stay in his town.
Yeah, that's one thing I did. So through our trip, in our interaction, we're actually surprised that most of the time the police were very courteous and very polite. And the one time that we did get stopped over in near Yarkand, we have to stop and they check their passport. They were very apologetic. It's like, so sorry, we have to do this, but you understand this is what required to do so.
Were you going somewhere near one of the border crossings? Because that's the usual thing.
Yeah, we were heading toward. There's more security when we headed toward. What's that town? Tashkurgan from Kashgar.
Okay.
Toward the border with Pakistan and Tajikistan and
Yeah.
Afghanistan.
Well, so it's a pretty rough area down there on the border, and they are pretty strict about it. So yeah, I understand that. I think when you get nearer any of the borders, there's I think 8 countries border Xinjiang. It's that big. When you get near one of those countries that borders Xinjiang, they start to get a little bit more sensitive about who you are, what you're doing. But no, generally speaking, they're fine. Mostly, there is a higher degree of security. There is no issue about that. I'm not going to ever try and pretend there isn't. But it's there for a damn good reason. And I never really saw. I'm a former police officer. I served in London during the IRA bombing campaigns. I've literally seen what a terrorist bomb can do, and therefore I have no issues with what they were doing. None at all. In fact, I've said this in interviews before. I wish I had had the same powers that those police officers there have and don't use. I would rather have had the powers and not use them than not have the powers and be unable to use them. We couldn't do stops and searches and things. If we thought someone looked a bit suspicious, doesn't matter. You can't just stop and search a guy because you think he looks suspicious. In Xinjiang, they can. They just don't. So that's the difference.
Yeah, we one of our photographer is a Russian guy who lives in Shanghai, and he says here in Xinjiang the cops are more polite than the police in Shanghai, and I can't comment on that because I did live in Shanghai for a long time, but my experience is they're very very courteous, and most of the police are locals. Most of the
Yeah,
police we encountered are local Uyghur police,
yeah.
and so you've been to Xinjiang multiple times. You must really like the place.
Well, I do like the place. I like it very much. I like the food. I like the environment. I have to say, I'm going to be a little sexist here. The most beautiful girls in China are in Xinjiang for sure. Don't tell my wife I said that. She's in the next room. But yeah, it's a gorgeous place with really nice people, and that's something that I'll never forget. If I never go back there again, I have some fantastic memories. But there's still some parts of it that I haven't seen. It's that big. I've cycled about 5,000 kilometers. I've been on a couple of bus tours there as well. But there's still a lot that I haven't seen. It's that big. However, when you spend the last trip we were there 19 days. 19 days is great. We saw so much. I mean, I really ought to write down the places that I've seen and what I saw in these places. But I mean, I keep a diary when I'm on my phone on the bus doing diaries like this, and so I've got knowledge, and I've also got memories, but I've also got a recording of what it was that we saw while we were there. And one of the things that I really felt after 19 days there was I want some green vegetables. I'm not a person who craves a salad, but I did. When I got back, the first thing I went for was a salad somewhere. That's not me at all. But after 19 days up there, yeah, I really craved a good salad. So there's
It's
not much green vegetable there.
yeah, it's great if you're a meat lover because it's a meat lover's heaven. Lamb, yeah, lamb.
As long as your meat is not pork, there's not much pork up there.
Yeah, so everything else, and they do have a lot of fruits. I was like I don't I was okay without vegetable because they have so many fruits. They have like because the I get this they get more sun exposure, so the fruits in Xinjiang is really sweet. Like they're
They also have a lot of dry fruits. I mean, fortunately, they don't make much wine there because they grow a lot of grapes, and this is where all the world's sultanas and raisins come from. And my wife, every day we were up there, the last stop that we had was 5 days in a place called Sacha, which is not far from Kash or Kashgar, and it's about 200 kilometers from Kashgar. And we were there, and you could buy these figs from the street, and it was 10 RMB for 6 figs. I got half a fig. Here, Jerry, have half a fig. Okay. I'm not a huge fan of figs, so it's not a big deal, but she would give me half a fig and eat the rest. And I'd say, got any more of those figs? No, I'm finished. It's 6 figs, or 5.5 figs in a day for 10 RMB. 10 RMB is a dollar, less than $1.50 US, £9.50. Sorry, not nine. Yeah, £9.50. No, not £9.50. 95p. 95p. Sorry.
yeah. It's really cheap. I mean, it's really affordable. The one thing I was actually surprised was a lot of the hotel we stayed at this time was built like all within last year. They're very nice accommodations, but a very affordable price. Like some of these hotels we stayed in could easily cost you like 400 euros back in Europe, or like three like $400 in United States, but in China and in Xinjiang is still very very affordable.
Yeah,
That's
an
the
expensive hotel here is $700. Very expensive. Your Crown Plazas in the center of Guangzhou is 700. I stay there sometimes. I can't. When someone else is paying, I'll stay there. I can't afford it on my own. But if a client, I don't have any clients. I'm retired now. But when I had a client who said, "Well, we need you to come to Guangzhou," I said, "Okay, can you put me in this hotel?" Yeah, okay, we'll do that. It's about 750 RMB to stay, and that's $100, just over $100 to stay in the Crown
yeah.
Plaza, 5 star, has its own coffee machine in every room, and everything links to your iPad or your iPhone or your I don't have an I anything but my Huawei or my Vivo. All links together. I can listen to my music, watch whatever I want to watch. It's all quite nice for 100 quid.
Yeah. And yeah, and man, so we are actually going. So I do plan to travel back to Xinjiang next year with Pepe Escobar. That's who I travel with this time. Is through our loop around the southern Xinjiang, but we haven't been to northern Xinjiang. So the places you have been on your first trip to Yili, that's a lake that we plan to do next year, because as you say, Xinjiang is such a big place. You can't really do it in one trip, because unless you have tons of time to spend. And so
Now, basically, if you're going to go to Xinjiang, you have to choose: do I want to go to the north or south? Because you can go west, both of them, north or southwest. So basically, land in Urumqi, or you can actually land in Kashgar, Ili, or Alanshanko. There's 28 airports in Xinjiang, 28 in one region. That's how big it is. And you can go to any of them. We actually flew, believe it or not, and this was because a TV crew paid for this. I wouldn't have done this. There's two of us. We flew from Kashgar to Sacha, and it's 200 kilometers. So we were in the air. They got us in the air. They lifted the wheels up, and then they put the wheels down, and we landed. It was pretty much that. That was it. why are we doing this? It's a 22-minute flight. You know, by the time we've got to the airport, gone through the security of the airport, got off the airport, and then gone to the hotel, we could have got a DD car, and it would have been cheaper. Two of us just to go the 200 kilometers.
Yeah, it's I was actually surprised. Even like small border town like Tashkurgan near Pakistan border, they have an airport, and the Tashkurgan only has like what 50,000 people, I think, altogether in that county. But it's I think the airports are built up now because China is really heavily promoting tourism in Xinjiang, and now they're building up all the tourist infrastructure everywhere. Like I mentioned, a lot of the hotels we stayed were very new, and I just saw a BBC report. Actually, they actually reported 300 million people have now visited
I saw that.
Xinjiang.
Yeah, but they're not seeing it. What are they not seeing? I think was the BBC line.
Yeah, there's always a but, right? Like when the BBC or Western media reports on China, you can never be 100% positive. They have to say, but you know, all those 300 million people, they're not seeing the real Xinjiang, which is kind of odd thing to say. You know, when you have 300 million people, always cameras, cell phones, you know, who are went there to take pictures, and somehow there's no zero photo. Yeah, somehow they all miss what BBC want them to see.
The ABC, Australia's ABC, had the answer last year. They were invited to go on a media tour, and they sent not a reporter from Australia, they sent the head of the Washington bureau of the ABC. Why they sent the head of the Washington bureau all the way from Washington to Xinjiang, and he wrote a great report saying, you know, there's no evidence whatsoever. They've cleaned it all up. They've hidden it all away. And then basically, he could find no evidence. So we just made the allegations anyway. There's no evidence. Everyone seems to be happy. But what are they hiding?
Yeah, I mean, you can't win with these people. I just walked around Kashgar on the national day. We were there on the China's national day, and so I just used my camera.
By We missed you by a week.
Oh, you were there after.
No, before I was there a week before you.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So we had to do that because Pepe's schedule this time, because he has like the 30-day free visa free visit to China because he has a European EU passport. And so we had to, so this is why we have to go in and out in 2 weeks, so he can, because he started his own leg of the trip in Xi'an and went up to Dunhuang, the whole Silk Road corridor. Then we met in Urumqi. Yeah, yeah. So he would be like by the national day, you know, his visa is near expiration. He get the heck out. So that explains our schedule. Had I known, you know, that would be great if we link up. I did met Luke, who you met. He's a great guy. He's living in Urumqi, just having a great time. And he took us.
Little trick for you, Carl. I've got a
Okay,
trick for you.
okay.
Anyone who is traveling on a 30-day visa free entry, all they need to do is to go across to one of the border towns, leave China, go shopping. You don't even have to enter the next country because if you're in Caucasus in particular, they have a massive shopping center. I mean, you couldn't see it in a day. They've got hotels inside. So you leave China, you can stay overnight in no man's land. There's a spot where there's a red line and they say that's Kazakhstan and this is China, which is whole bullshit. It's just a line in the middle of the shopping center. But effectively, you get a picture of yourself standing on in two countries. Then you just head back and you got another 30 days.
That's what I told Pepe. You know, like but that this time we were in because I
But
don't
you
think
were
he
too
has a
far
pack.
away from there.
Yeah, we're too far away. I don't think he had a Pakistan visa, so he couldn't just go
No,
because
no,
we're
no.
close.
Kazakhstan doesn't need a visa.
Right, but we were on the other side of the border. We're on the Xinjiang Pakistan border near Tashkurgan.
You're not that far away. You're a long bus ride or a short flight. or a train.
We would have to fly from Kashgar to North Xinjiang to cross the Kazakhstan border. But next time, I told him that was an option because since that's what he wanted to do, he actually wanted to travel to the border area to see the border trade zone. So I'm like, okay, if you're pressed for time, just hop over the border. I mean, like, I'm pretty sure it's pretty easy to get the Kazakhstan border pass, and then
As long as you're legitimately in China, you can legitimately leave China there and come back again. We had one person couldn't do it. You might know who Fernando couldn't do it
ah,
because he has a permanent residency card
uh
and not
huh,
a pass. He has a passport, obviously,
right.
but because he has a permanent residency card, he didn't bring his passport. Now,
Oh,
permanent resident doesn't allow him to leave China
yeah,
and come
yeah, yeah,
back
yeah.
into China.
He still
A
need a
passport
passport.
does.
Yeah,
So it doesn't matter if he has both with him, but he wasn't. So he had to sit it out. I think he
yeah.
was quite happy. He found a nice little coffee shop and did some work and waited while we went off and did our thing.
Nice, nice. You have to let me know next time you are going. You know, maybe I'll join you. Um,
Well, I believe I'm flying on Saturday. I think.
it's a little bit short
Short notice.
notice, but
Yeah, sorry.
I mean, this is great. I mean, I really had a great time in Xinjiang, and people are super friendly over there. They like all I had to do was just say to them in Uyghur hello, you know, Yakshimu says, and then everybody they just all smile, they lighten up, they you know that you can initiate a conversation, and
Yeah,
yeah, it's great. It's I would you know I would go in a heartbeat. You know, like it's
yeah,
just,
it's
I
worth
now
it.
I understand why you keep on going back.
You're actually fluent in Mandarin as well, aren't you? Yeah. So most of them, the older generation, don't speak very good Mandarin, but all of anyone 50 or younger can speak Mandarin quite well. But the older generation, the 60s and the 70s, they don't. So you could just talk to them in Mandarin, and the best way to really engage with them is say, "Can you teach me how to say this in your language?" They love that.
Yeah, yeah. I noticed like there's a uh like I think there's a age divide because I did notice older people they didn't really speak Mandarin, but the younger they are, the more fluent they are. Like we went to a barber shop in I think Hotan in Hotan with Pepe because Pepe need to trim his beard and I need to get a haircut so there's like two Uyghur guy, maybe in their late 20s, you know, doing cutting hair, and there's like a kid who's like maybe you know not a 10-year old kid just playing video game on his phone next time, and the our barber, you know, their Mandarin is good, they're understandable, but there's still points where you know sometimes they stumble on a piece of conversation, but the 10-year-old kid he would be like ba 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 ba, you know, he would do all the translation for us, and yeah. So yeah, I did notice. I think that's coincide with when they started the bilingual education in Xinjiang, which started around I think early 2000. So all the people like you know 30s up to 40s they would have gone through the bilingual education program, so they would have no problem speaking, and yeah, but I highly recommend anyone to travel because a lot of people like they don't realize that you know they listen to Western media, they thought Xinjiang is a restricted area, but they didn't realize as long as you have a valid Chinese visa you can travel to Xinjiang without additional permit or anything. Tibet is the only region.
It's even better than that now. There are
Mhm.
48 countries that don't need a visa and they can all travel to Xinjiang. It's like if you're in China legally, you go to Xinjiang. If you're
Yeah.
in China illegally, Xinjiang is the one place I would not recommend you go to because they do check your passports a lot. But if you're in China illegally, you probably wouldn't be traveling. You'd be keeping your head right down.
Right. I mean, you would have problem then also getting a train ticket if you were.
Train tickets, hotels, even bus tickets to a different city. Yeah, yeah. Local buses are okay, but if you want to catch a bus to the next city, no, you won't be able to get to that without it. Well, actually, you probably could with your passport. You probably could, but they don't tend to check your visa, but the
Ah,
hotels do.
right. The hotels do. Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. This. So what's next for you, Jerry?
Okay, in terms of cycling, what's next? The big one is probably in June next year. When I say probably June, it's probably June. It's possibly May or possibly July, but it's going to happen. We're going to fly back to Hohhot because we now have electric e-assist bikes. So they're ordinary bikes with a battery that helps you up the hills and stuff. Because I'm nearly 70 years old, and those hills are pretty brutal. So I now have a little bit of e-assist going up the hills. I can still ride without them, but in fact, I do ride without them most of the time. But when you get into the mountains, click it on and off you go. It just helps enormously and makes the journey pleasurable instead of more painful. So we left our batteries in Hohhot because they didn't want to ship the batteries back when with the bikes when we came back. And so we're going to have the bikes shipped up there, click the batteries back in, charge them up, and then ride to Qinghai, which is the only province of China that I haven't been to. I haven't been to Taiwan, which is a province of China, but it's a separate issue there, and it's a little more difficult for me to get there. But in terms of mainland and the Chinese managed Hainan and Zhuhai Islands, I've been, and Hong Kong and Macau, I've been everywhere else. So that's the plan, just to go up and ride down to Qinghai. And to do that, we'll need to ride through Dunhuang, or pretty.
Wow. Wow. So you are going through the whole Silk Road corridor through Gansu.
Yes. I've cycled through Gansu before, twice. Once going east-west, once going west-east. Gansu is quite brutal to cycle through. It's very dry, wide open, brutally strong winds, and it can be quite painful. Ningxia is pretty much the same as well. Ningxia is much smaller than Gansu. Gansu is a very long, it goes around a corner, very long province, and you spend, in fact, I think Gansu is the province you spend the most time in when you're crossing China. But on this trip, we just passed through the narrow part, the neck of Gansu, and then down near Zhangyue, Yumen, and Donghuan, and head down to the across the mountains and down into Qinghai.
Where's your destination in Qinghai?
Not decided yet. Somewhere
Ah,
in Qinghai. It's just a case of I want to go to Qinghai, so the destination doesn't matter. Probably one of the major towns or cities. So when we get
yeah.
there, we'll make a decision. We may decide because the three of us don't have jobs. We're all unemployed or unemployable, and therefore we can just say, well, do we want to continue and go all the way home? It'll take us another month. Yeah, okay, we'll do that. Or maybe we've done what we set out to do. Let's go somewhere by car or bus or train and send the bikes home, and we'll see them in 10 days' time. It's a decision we haven't quite made yet.
Wow. What a nice way to spend your retirement. I mean, that you're living my dream. And
I'm lucky.
yeah. So wait, have you been to Tibet yet?
Tibet, yes, I have. I was there last year in August, just for a 10-day trip. Again, that was a media trip. I was invited by the Regional Council Information Office, and I don't know why I was there.
Okay.
Seriously, they invited me and they said, we're bringing influencers. Okay,
Ah.
me? Um, yeah, we would like you to come. So, okay, who else is going? And they gave me a list of names. I'd never heard of
Yeah.
any of these people.
Oh wow.
Every single person on this tour was Chinese, except me.
Ah.
Am I on the wrong tour here? Am I on the wrong bus? They, they just, I mean, I'm functional in Mandarin. I speak no Tibetan at all, not even a word of it, but I'm functional in Mandarin. And they were making announcements in both languages. What? What do you say? 9:30. I know, I got that bit, but where are we going at 9:30? So, I mean, that was what I was getting. And so I was lucky, but there's a couple of girls there who spoke some English.
Hmm.
None of the boys. There's 20 or 30, no, there's a total of 60 people.
Hmm.
Several of them were staff and guides. But first day there, we're having a dinner table meeting, and we had to each introduce ourselves. And the first girl gets up and she says, I've got 3 million followers on Douyin and 12 million followers on Weibo and all this sort of stuff. And it got round to me, these got 7 million, 6 million, 2 million. I've got 32,000 followers on YouTube. Oh, God, why is he here? Why is he here? That was it. I got 50,000 now, but this is a year ago. But yeah, it was a really weird experience to be on this trip with all of these really serious influencers and me, the only foreigner and the only guy I mean, they get more views on one video than I get in a month, probably in a year. They'll get 2 million views on this video that they put out. And I get, the best video I've ever had is 100,000 views.
So you didn't get to do bicycling on that trip?
No. They didn't give me that opportunity. I did get a free afternoon, and they were very keen to take me back to the hotel. And I said, no, I'll just get off here and I'll make my own way back. And I thought they were going to have a heart attack or something. No, you can't do that. You can't do that. And I thought, why not? Is there a problem? I mean, security or no, because you don't know how to get back to the hotel. I do know how to get back to the hotel. I had to tell them what the name of the hotel was in Chinese, show them on my phone that I know how to use Didi. Once they had that, okay, you can go then. They were just worried I'd get lost and die in the mountains or something. But we're in the town center of Lhasa. So I had 5 or 6 hours of total free time wandering around. And believe it or not, I had a Xinjiang meal that night
Oh,
in
nice.
Lhasa.
Nice.
I found the Uyghur has a mosque, and just
Uh-huh.
a few hundred meters away, about a kilometer away, the Hui Muslims have a mosque as well. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of Muslim food in Lhasa. I was surprised. So I sat down and I had myself a dapanji and a bottle of beer,
Nice.
Xinjiang beer in
Nice.
Lhasa.
That's what people don't realize. It's actually quite easy to get around in China nowadays. If you have like a Chinese map app, the 高德地图, the A map.
Gouda is brilliant. In English, it's called AMAP, but Gouda is absolutely brilliant. That takes us on some of the most incredible. The picture you see behind me is from Gouda. We're riding along this road, and suddenly it says turn left in 100 meters, and you go, what? Turn left? We're on the main road going straight to the city we want to go to, and it says turn left, and you turn left, and you do a detour through this kind of village, and then it brings you out the other side 2-3 kilometers later, and you've just saved yourself a 12-kilometer diversion through the main road. The main road goes way around the other side of that hill. So yeah, it's fantastic. Gouda or AMAP, just capital AMAP, AMAP.
Yeah, and by the way, where is that? Where is that the town that the behind you the picture was taken?
This one's in Qingyuan, in a place called Nanlian. It's about 3 or 4 hours drive north of Guangzhou.
Oh, okay. So this is actually in Guangdong province.
It's right on the border with Hunan, not far from Guizhou. Guizhou, Guangxi, and Hunan all kind of border the northern western side of Guangdong province, and it's somewhere up that way. I think Hunan is very close to Hunan.
Well, this has been a great catching up, Jerry. It's this last time I talked to you, I think it was like years ago. So I just wanted, yeah, I just wanted to catch up to see how you're doing. Looks like you're still having a grand old time in China, and it's good, always good to hear. And I look forward to updates from your up and coming trip. And I wish all your success in your future endeavors. Is there, if people want to follow you, where would they go?
Yeah, just follow me it's on there on the screen, Jerry's Take on China. And yeah, anyone can follow me anytime. It's okay. If they have questions about China, anyone can ask questions. I read all my comments still, and I respond to emails when people pick up the email address from the bio. It's inside of the bio. So if people say, hey, have you been to and what do you know about? I'm quite happy to answer them all. Do you know anything about this story I've heard? Usually I'll be able to say, yeah, I know about that. It's a load of rubbish. So yeah, anyone can contact me through my YouTube, Jerry's Take on China, through Twitter, Jerry's Take on China, or X, I should say, sorry. And the email address is in the bio of both of them.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Jerry, for making your time to talk with us, and thanks everyone else for tuning in. Until next time.